What's up? What's up? Jeff Lerner here. How's it going? Today we're talking about how to be awesome, how to do world-changing, earth-shattering, disruptive things with your life. Now, if I could just figure out why Instagram's not cooperating, we'd really be somewhere. Every day. I mean, I'm serious. Every day I have these troubles with Instagram. It actually gets really old. But you know what? We're just gonna go with it. Who's with me? Who's with me? Oh, I'm bailing on this. No, you know what? Yeah, I'm bailing on this. So yeah, we're talking about how to do disruptive, massive things. A little bit of almost feels like a little bit of a coming out party, a little celebration. I've been working. By the way, where is everybody? I mean, I see people on. Give me a comment. Let me know you're here. Say hello. I want to say hi to people. I want to have a dialogue with the world out there. You know, I've been building up to where I am right now. What's up, Jeff? Appreciate you being here. Been building up to where I am right now. Well, I guess in some ways you could say 40 years. Mitchell, Paul, Daniel, what's up, my friends? There's everybody. Appreciate you being here. You know, this live is meant to be a call for you to understand what you are capable of if you will play the game with so much more method and strategy and deliberation and patience than people would ever expect. Because we live in a world where it's not expected for people to be patient, do it right, take their time. My friend Tim Story calls it building your spot. I want to talk about the value of building your spot. Daniel, how are you, man? Appreciate it. TJ, glad to hear you're excited about the step 4 lesson. Listen, this is for anybody. I don't care if you've been through my training or not. I'm going to tell you how much you can do. I'm going to share a little bit. And I was just reading this article about this girl. Tell me if you know who Naomi Osaka is, if that name rings any bells. So in 2018, Naomi Osaka played Serena Williams in the Sergio, for sure. Appreciate it. So Naomi Osaka played Serena Williams in I think it was the U.S. Open, and she won, which was not expected. And Serena Williams just lost her mind. I mean, it was a total mess of a match. I encourage you to look it up on YouTube, read about it. Really, really inspiring story. So Naomi Osaka is she was this Japanese girl, and she'd been obsessed with Serena Williams since she was a little girl. In 3rd grade, she actually did a report on Serena Williams. And she wrote a letter to Serena Williams basically saying, I look forward to playing you someday. And you think about, what does it take for an 8-year-old girl to write the best athlete in the world? An 8-year-old Japanese girl, mind you. Bear in mind, no Asian has ever won a prior to Naomi Osaka. Yeah, Jeff, she went bonkers. It's like actually pretty funny to watch. And so here she is, 8 years old, writing a letter to the best tennis player in the world, arguably the best tennis player of all time, women's tennis, saying, basically I'm excited to play you someday. And that was her singular focus for over 10 years. And John, thank you. Thanks for that intel. Naomi's father was Jamaican, so she's Jamaican. She's a Japanese national, moved to the United States when she was young. But just such a really, really cool story. And it got me really inspired thinking, that singularity of focus, that consistency of effort, that long-term drive is something that this world needs so badly. Every one of us needs so badly. And it's the one thing that I think I've done well that's driven most of the great things that are happening in my life. By the way, if you're watching this, if you're just coming on, give me a share. Like share this with the world. If you're all about my mission, if you know what my mission is, and this isn't your first time seeing me, you know that I am genuinely on a crusade to help people have as awesome a life as possible. And, let the world know. Let's share this with the world. I think people need to hear this. I think we're in a world right now where people really need to hear what they're capable of. The world right now is so frozen. And I think people have kind of lost this sense of like, what can I do? What can I build? What can be accomplished right now in the moment? And I'm going to tell you so much can be accomplished in the moment right now. People think that progress and success are temporary, sort of temporary things, or they happen quickly, or that they're circumstantial, or that when circumstances get uneasy or unsettled, that somehow you stop building. And that's what I want to tell you. It's like, I remember March of 2009, I went to this event in Lake Tahoe. It was actually Lake Tahoe, California. Lake Tahoe, or the town of Tahoe, sits on the border of Nevada and California. And this event was on the California side. And I was at this event, and I remember I was at such a low point in my life. And I remember seeing these guys, and I was able to meet some of these guys, some of the guys that were up on stage, some of the big names, some of the biggest names in internet marketing were at that event. The guys, the Finale brothers, the guys that went on to create MLSP, My Lead System Pro, were there. Mike Dillard was there. A lot of people know who Mike is. Big fan of his. I was fortunate to be on his podcast not too long ago. Aaron Parkinson was there, who's the founder of 7 Mile Media, one of the best agencies in the world right now. There were a lot of people there who were in a place that was so different from where I was. You could probably realistically argue that they were as far from where I was as Serena Williams was from this 8-year-old Japanese girl. And I remember being at that event, and I had this really interesting epiphany that sounds so silly, but I met Mike, I met Aaron, I met the Finales, and my biggest takeaway from that event, aside from all the amazing information and training, but my biggest takeaway was I'm taller than all these guys. And I'm like 6 feet tall. I mean, I'm like, I guess a little above average height. I'm not like a giant, but just, coincidentally, most of the guys I just named are like in the kind of the 5'9", 5'10" range. And I was like, I'm taller than these guys. And to me, it was kind of like realizing that you're taller than Superman, or you're taller than, or you're stronger than Batman or something. Like, these guys were my idols, my heroes at the time. And they had the life that I wanted so desperately. They had the reality, the day-to-day experience of living that I wanted so badly. They were affluent. They were well-liked. They had freedom and flexibility. They could travel. It wasn't about having $1 billion. It was having about $1 billion worth of freedom. And I don't think $1 billion worth of freedom costs $1 billion in this world, but $1 billion worth of freedom costs several $1 million in this world, I think. But you hit this threshold where you've got it. You've got the life that people want. And I remember, so this was 2009, March 2009. I said, you know what? I'm gonna build my spot. And I didn't have that language for it at the time. I said, I'm gonna build my spot. By the way, thanks for the kind words. And Paul, yes, by all means, keep moving, building content for social. Yes, sir. Joe, appreciate your comments. Who is my customer and what do they want? Yes, absolutely. And this is all stuff that's plugged into my knowledge base and my framework for how I look at life and business since that time. But in that time, at that event, March of 2009, everything that I'm doing now became real, became hyper real to me. My friend Alex Mayer, who's really successful, sold his company years ago for $300 million. And now him and Ty Lopez basically hang out and buy companies together. And I had him on the show, and he told me something on the show on Millionaire Secrets a few months ago that stuck with me. He said, whenever something really momentous in this world happens, it actually happens 3 times. First, it happens in the mind of the person who's going to go do it. Then it happens in the life of the person who does it. Then it happens in the consciousness of the world that observes it. And it's 3 very discrete instances of any momentous thing happening. And In March of 2009, Entre happened in my mind. I didn't have the word for it. I didn't know it was Entre. I didn't know it was even in the education industry. All I knew is that the fact that these guys on this stage have done really big things and literally not just made a lot of money, but I mean, that was like the early founding group almost of the entire digital marketing space. I mean, they were networked with a lot of the early, progenitors of this digital marketing industry. They were tied to Russell Brunson. They were tied to Ryan Dice. They were tied to Jeff Walker and just all the kind of Mount Rushmore founding fathers of digital marketing, the people that literally created what we now consider to be standard fare for how business gets done. And I was like, these guys, I'm going to be there. Like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to do my own version of what these guys have done. And it just became so real to me. And literally for the last 11 to 12 years now, I've been living out that reality. And now that it's starting to get to the place where that third phase is happening, my Instagram profile I still can't even really figure out what's happening. I mean, I don't know. I just know I put content out and I do my best and I try real hard. But I mean, Instagram is now organically delivering me, between 1,000 and 2,000 followers a day. I've gone from 21,000 to 25,000 followers in the last 3 days. Like, there's some tipping point stuff happening for me where essentially people are like, oh, I see what he's doing. I get it now, or I'm getting it. I'm starting to wake up to it. And what I want to talk about is not so much that phase. That's really gratifying when it happens. That's really rewarding and validating. And obviously, you get some nice endorphin rush from the awareness of what you've been working so hard for. But it's really those first two phases that I think people, if anything, they fall short of belief. Jeff, I'm going to answer your question about when I felt like I could sit at the table. And it's actually funny. So a really good friend of mine who I met at that event, whose name is Andrew Cass, who I'm actually having on my show in about an hour and a half. I'm interviewing him. I mean, he's a longtime good friend of mine now. We used to have a business together. And anyway, I got to know him a little bit at that first event, and being around him, he always had this thing that he would say. He's like, your place at the table, you got to earn your place at the table. And it was really, at the time, I was like, oh, this guy's kind of a jerk, man. He's basically saying I haven't earned my place at the table. But it offended me because in my mind, I knew what I was going to do. And I've just, ever since then, it's just been doing it. It's just been the slow, methodical gathering of resources and acquiring of knowledge and building of network and creation of relationships and opportunity and synergy and trying a lot of things and failing at a lot of things and succeeding at some things. But it's all literally, all the seeds were planted in March of 2009. And so, I don't have time in this live, which I've got a meeting in 7 minutes, so I'm not going to talk at length. But what I want to hopefully, transfer to you, whoever's seeing this, is you can decide at any time what you're going to do. Exactly. You're not going to have all the lights, so to speak, aren't going to turn green before you leave the house. You're going to hit red lights and you're going to stop and you're going to wait and then you're going to go to the next light. But it all, literally the entire path can be created in an instant. And for me, I look at all this stuff that's lined up since 2009. Mentors, opportunities, relationships. In 2017, for example, I met somebody who I was kind of burned out on my agency. And I was like, when I say burned out, what I mean is I had reached a point where I realized it wasn't ultimately going to get me to the destination that I knew I was heading towards, because that business, it just wasn't the one. It was doing well, but it wasn't the one. And so I was kind of frustrated, like, what am I going to do? What's my next thing? And I knew a guy who said, oh, you should talk to this other guy. I ended up on a phone call with a guy, and I don't have time to go through the sequence of relationships that got me to that point, but I ended up on a phone call that was one of the first 10 people ever to work at Microsoft. And really like super smart guy, really successful, retired, lives in the mountains, does woodworking, has just an amazing life. He's one of I think he was employee number 8 at Microsoft. He helped Microsoft. His P&L internally at Microsoft, just his division, was a $10 billion a year P&L. So he basically ran a Fortune 500 company inside of a Fortune 100 company. And I talked to him in 2017. And I was like, what I'm searching and I'm trying to figure it out. And he basically pointed me in the direction of education. He said, education is where there's so much opportunity and it's rife for disruption. And the more I looked at education and even my own experience in college and what I knew how to do and what the people I knew how to do, that's when I knew. I was like, I'm going to end up in education. That's the ultimate destination of where I'm headed. It doesn't mean when I get there, I'm done. And in some ways, it means when I get there, I'm just getting started. But I knew 2017 is when I had my orientation. 2009 is when I had my inspiration. That's a lot of time. And everything since then has just been stacking the deck, right? Let's see. What do we got? Yeah, post me some questions. I'm going to keep telling my story here, but I want to get some questions here. Yeah, well, a lot of nice comments. I appreciate it, everyone. Yeah, and Jeff, that's what he talks about, the future of education. And so now in this moment, I'm on podcasts. I'm talking to people. I've been on 2 podcasts already today, other people's podcasts. And, I've kind of got this story and I've got this interest and people are talking and there's all this energy and hustle and bustle and momentum happening and Entra's blowing up. And, in the last 3.5 months, I've done more business than, with one exception, I did in any previous year. And it's all happening so fast. I have to keep reminding myself, Jeff, it took so long to build this. And the thing is, it wouldn't have really mattered. I mean, education was the thing I honed in on because I saw opportunity. I saw value. And that's all you're really doing is you're scanning for opportunity. You're scanning for value. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation, right? I can't tell you that the opportunity is going to happen today. I can't tell you that it's going to be around the next corner, but I can tell you that the preparation is ongoing. It needs to be never ending. And it's every relationship. It's every lesson learned. It's every trial and error, every experiment, every little micro step of growth. Jeff, what is this conversation about? This conversation is me trying to encourage you that all those little steps that you cannot see the end point of, I promise they're all stacking up to exactly where you need to go. And if you can create that picture in your mind of the scale and the significance and the personal value of what you're going to do, and you can hold to it so obsessively, like this little Japanese girl did about playing her idol at tennis, then ultimately your life will determine your reality. And what I mean is, either you believe and you commit and you sacrifice, and all these little things in your life start to stack up and lead in sequence to this ultimate destination, or you sabotage yourself. And the way you sabotage yourself is by constantly hitting reset, constantly changing directions, constantly giving up, constantly losing momentum, essentially not holding true. Dave Asprey podcast, I would guess it'll be out sometime this month. That was a great one, man. He's great. Learned so much from him and built, what I know is going to be such a valuable relationship long-term. But it's all these little things. So let me just kind of manifest and explore this a little bit more. So 2018, I started making videos. What are all these videos you're making, Jeff? What is this all about? I mean, I was making videos for like 2 people, 4 people, 7 people. And that's with replay. I mean, there'd be no people on. And then 3 days later, I'd look and it'd be like, 7 people saw my video. You can go back and see these videos. A lot of them are, if you go to my Facebook page and go back to fall of 2018, you'll see these videos. And some of them have a lot of views now, but like, it was clumsy. It was messy. It was kind of ugly in the beginning, but I just knew that, like, here's the thing. I knew I was meant to do a big thing, Not because Jeff Lerner is special, but because every human being on earth is meant to do a big thing. You're meant to do a big thing, but you have to get so ruthless about directing and managing and holding form in your life to the singular objective of reaching your destination of greatness, whatever it is. And if you have the conviction and you have the stamina and you have the belief, you'll do it. And your life will reflect the doing of it in so many ways. People will think that you're weird. People won't understand you. You know, when I started making all these videos, Jeff, why are you spending all this time talking to virtually no one? Because I just knew. I knew because of that event in 2009 and that picture I held in my mind that I was building something that was going to go to this ultimate place that I was supposed to be. Now, did I know that that was going to be the one? Did I know that those videos were going to lead to my course? We're going to lead to Entre. We're going to lead to a movement now with over 60,000 people in 2 years. We're going to lead to, you know, a burgeoning 9-figure company. We're going to lead to significant influence and authority and reach across hundreds of thousands of people going, you know, what I expect is going to grow to millions of people. Like, there's no way to see that. And I think so often we have this need to see the end rather than to believe in our values, commit to our vision, and to trust our process. And at this point, I look at my life through a couple lenses, but one of those lenses is, what does my life demonstrate for the rest of the world? And to the extent that it demonstrates something that can improve the rest of the world and can improve the lot of other people in the world, I have an obligation to put my life out there, put my thoughts out there, put everything on display, because seeing is believing. And I hope that everybody in my world sees, man, this guy is not perfect. This guy is kind of messy. This guy sticks his foot in his mouth all the time. But if there's one thing this guy's done well, it's for 12 years now, I haven't stopped building my spot. I've stayed in the same lane of achieving excellence, a holistic balance, physical, personal, and professional, even when I didn't have that language for it. I've stayed in the same lane of acquiring digital marketing and direct response marketing skills. I've stayed in the same lane of building a diverse and super well-connected network at every chance I could get. Every event I could get, I was there to meet people. I was there to build relationships. I wasn't just there to consume the knowledge that was coming off the stage. I was there to maximize the opportunity that was in the room. And that it all assembles. It all eventually assembles into this thing that when it happens, it feels so fast. It feels like it has so much momentum of its own. It feels like this great happening that's almost preordained, but it's not supernatural. It's preordained through your singular vision, the ability to stick to your vision so much longer than most people will. Jeff, your first podcast has 4 viewers. Dude, that's amazing. That's amazing, man. It will grow so fast, especially someone like yourself who's got that vision, who's got that desire to serve and to ennoble and empower other people that come into contact with you and your business and your message. It's going to grow, man. But it's not going to grow on the next rep or the one after that. It could take dozens. It could take hundreds. Podcasts, videos, thoughts, ideas, posts, essays, blogs, marketing campaign. What the nucleus of that is going to be that vision. That's my message. Anyways, I'm 3 minutes late for my meeting. I just wanted to quickly come on and share, guys, and say when it happens, it feels like it was always meant to be. But it didn't feel like that to anyone but you for a really long time. And if you can't hold that certainty, you'll never get to the destination. I hope that's of value, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to jump to this meeting, but I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.